I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is Stoneblock 4. Now, last episode was kind of awesome. We ended up completing our Tier 2 chapter, which then unlocked the Solaris chapter. But there was an update between then and now, and this update is pretty darn cool, because we now have actual voices for the echoes. But now this means I no longer have to voice act these things, which I'm a little saddened by, but I tell you what, it is going to save me a ton of time because I usually have to retake over and over and over again to get these reading sections right. I promise you, I struggle a lot. But now jumping back into our quest, this is where I said we just finished Horizon, but now we're jumping into the Solaris. And this is pretty interesting. We have the Infernal, the Catalyst, and the Lightbender, all of which we need to find. I do see over here we have found the Lightbender, so let's go give this guy a check. And I kind of want to see what this is going to put us up to. We're going to be able to get a little bit further inside of our adventures here. Very Mekanism-esque room. I like this. Also, by the way, each of these rooms, I mean, take inspiration from stuff like this. I think this would be a great like decor area for like some of your bases. Just like use this kind of stuff for references. Like this is great, right? You have some tough. Use some of these aluminum chisel blocks here. There's also like some technical blocks from the chisel, like all kinds of stuff. These rooms should provide like pretty good inspiration, I think, especially if you're kind of struggling on how to build out your own base. But anyways, let's actually talk to this guy. The echo, here we go. And this is what I'm meaning. We now have a button that can play out this whole section. So let's talk to the Lightbender.
Ah, splendid. It has been ages since a fellow scholar wandered into my workshop. Through my work in quantum and subatomic physics, I designed countless technological marvels, some of which are still in use today. Teleportation, particle manipulation, and even energy refraction. Many called me mad, yet here I am. Well, sort of. This projection is merely a reflection of my old brilliance. Fascinating, isn't it? Such a feat would require technology far beyond anything I ever witnessed. Now then, let's get you started on those upgrades for that rather dysfunctional world engine of yours. First, you must study particle formations capable of bending and refracting energy fields. In simpler terms, force fields. To master them, you must conquer a vault that will let you extract Fortron and infuse it into a metallic alloy designed to refract energy. This will allow you to craft the Fortron blocks needed for your upgrade.
Oh boy. And now we are tasked to retrieve the Fortron-infused ingots from the Fortron vault and craft 4 Fortron-infused blocks. Okay, so very interesting. And what do we have that we can buy? Ooh, ultimate pipe upgrades, night vision goggles. I really want these. We're gonna buy these, I think. I don't actually have night vision just yet, but night vision goggles from the artifacts mod is actually pretty good. And then we have Fortron matrices. Interesting. All right. Ooh, and we can even buy Fortron infused blocks later on down the road. Nice. Oh, and it just gives you a QIO dashboard array, and we also get the time dilating QIO drive. What? That's like the max QIO drive, I believe. My goodness, this is like the most sciencey science guy we've experienced thus far. But I don't know. Let me know what you think about these voices. I really like this. Now, let's go ahead and get these night vision goggles satisfied here. We do have to open this up. I like to like scrub through here and sort of see where all the dots are. And usually you just need to outline the actual connection points of the image that is behind it. So something like this. We're going to be making like a goggle. Gonna go like that, connect there, and then this will connect here, and then we just connect this one up, and voila, we now have ourselves some night vision goggles. If you don't want to solve the puzzle, you can just spend experience if you have excess experience, which we do have now. But there we go. We now have this, and we do have the ability to toggle it on and off, which is nice. I think V is the default hotkey. I do want to give it some base ability, so let's use some of our experience. 3 levels is fine for right now. And now I can put this inside of my head slot, which, you know what? I am going to get rid of this artifact wheel. I haven't really found it too useful. And now that we're getting a little bit more OP, I don't really think this is going to help me too much. But yeah, having some night vision is going to be nice. And we can toggle it on and off. Right now it's off. Hitting V toggles it on. Oh, it's kind of nice. It's going to be helpful when working in dark areas. Down the road a little bit, the Infernal. Ah, yes. All right. Very Nether-esque. Very interesting. And, ooh, a lover of music, you might say. Very disco-y right here with these actual addition blocks. All right, let's see what this guy has to say. Ooh, also sells Wither Skeleton Skull. Sells a creative blaze cake. Okay, that, you know what? That's really nice. Also some gateway pearls. Interesting. Mining dimension core piece. All right, let's dive into this and let's see what this Echo has to say. Well, or maybe not, since this Echo's voice isn't working. So I will get to voice act it yet again. The hell's a scrawny brat like you doing trying to restore the world engine? I wouldn't have lasted a single day in the underworld expedition with a body like that. Not that many of us did anyways. Even the strong can fall. Our commander used to say, never been truer than now. Since you look more like the brains over brawn type, I suggest you gear up before going after this upgrade, rookie. My upgrade's just another step towards that power of the deep the enchanter keeps yapping about. If you've met them. Doesn't matter if you haven't. I'm not one for teamwork anymore. My upgrade works fine without any of their magical nonsense. What you'll need is combat experience and proper gear if you're planning to take on the guardian of the underworld in the vault. You'll also need to understand a bit of the spiritual side. I never used to believe in it until I saw what's down there. Get your hands on some spirit metal. It'll let you bind the physical and spiritual and underworld realms together to forge spirit blocks. Shouldn't be too hard for a determined spirit. And thus here we are tasked to slay the guardian within the infernal vault and gather what you need to craft 12 spirit blocks. Oh boy. So you know what? Overall, not too bad. And this one, we're probably gonna have to prep up even more. I'm probably going to end up upgrading our gear, getting better enchantments over time. As of right now, though, we have other things to set our minds to. Let's actually go talk to the other fella, which just happens to be right upstairs. The Archive of the Catalyst. Ooh, very end stone, end related. Are we finally going to get to go to the end? I'm pretty excited about this one too. All right, let's see if this one works. Oh, end crystals are kind of horrifying. All right, we've met the Catalyst. I have no idea if this one's going to work. Let's take a look at the shop. Ooh, isohedrons we can buy. That kind of makes sense. Infinite water cell. This is where we can get that. Ooh, and a drop teleporter upgrade. We just literally buy them. Basic to nether tier upgrades. Ooh, but they're so expensive. I mean, I feel like we can just craft those. Right, let's see what the Echo of the Catalyst has to say.
Hey there. Are you ready to tackle more fun and interesting marvels of technology? It's kind of crazy, right? How so many of us managed to build all these upgrades for the same ancient machine across different eras, each one improving on the last. Not to brag, but I've contributed more upgrades to the world engine than most. Still, quality beats quantity every time. My work ended up at tier 3 for a reason. Wait until you see what some of the other Echoes cooked up. It'll blow your mind. Anyway, enough yapping. Let's get to it. The upgrade I'll be teaching you about is what keeps the whole world engine from falling apart when you start cranking up the power. My advanced machine blocks are the backbone of every higher tier system. Without them, you'd probably collapse this entire dimension. So before we risk that, let's work on your power generation. With the help of some tech from the Quartermaster and the Infernal, you'll need to build an energizing orb. It's used to fuse high-energy materials like nitro crystals. Once you get that running, use the results to make a nitro ender cell and power up your world engine.
Very nice. So our task is to craft an ender cell nitro tier. Oh boy, that is going to be something else entirely. Also, we get all of these mobs. I mean, we're going to need power to be able to provide for these hostile neural networks. But man, also, we get energizing rods nitro here. Very, very nice. Also, tier upgrades. Interesting. Some isnium. And also mithril ingots. Very nice. So far, my understanding is we're going to be able to get access to Fortron, which is something that we are going to need for higher tier world engine upgrades and to be able to craft future things. We also need to fight a boss. A scary nether boss. That's something that we've also got to work on. And then it also looks like we need to upgrade our power in our base. And power is something that I kind of want to get started with. Now back to my lovely base, some things that I have actually done. I went ahead and I popped through inside of here and I let one of the bosses spawn from Apotheosis. I shut off this so that way it didn't continue spawning them. And I took the bad boy out. I just took him out. Took the little guy out here. That allowed me to hit Control and T and actually upgrade it to Incent for our world tier. Now these next tiers are going to require us to slay the Wither and also kill an Ender Chicken Jockey. All things we're going to have to do in the future. But with me doing this, it now supplies me with a bit more of these arcane sands, which we are going to need for the future. So now that that's out of the way, power is something that I really want to work on, but I've also started to decorate the inside here. I'm using some green terracotta. We have so much clay, and I have some green dye, which I was able to dupe with the other flower. So I started to work on this, but I've encountered a problem, right? On these inner walls, this block and this block, well, they're the same block. So if I was to change the outer wall to green, the inner wall would be green, and I don't really want that. But there's actually a way that we can have both sides of this single block be two different textures. And so I introduce you to the framed block mod, specifically the framed double panel. And we don't have to do it all the way up to the top, but we can definitely do it right here. And what this framed double panel is going to allow us to do is texture both sides. So this side can be stone, for example, and the other side here can be green terracotta. How cool is that? Look at this. And that way we can keep our textures sort of aligned like this. Oh, that's perfect. Exactly what I needed. So I think this is starting to look pretty good. I went ahead and used some pot soil down with some coarse dirt along the edge here and added a little bit of spruce leaves here and there. But things are really going to change. Now, I've also used that green terracotta and I lined the rest of the walls. This is actually starting to look pretty good. And I've cleared out these rooms. So I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on this outer wall here. And then going out one more. This one I think goes about 11 blocks, but it kind of equals out. You just kind of want to get both sides nice and equal. These are some really big rooms that I've got set up. And this is going to allow me to kind of work on much larger projects. But the real big projects I think are going to happen more on these upper sides. And I still also have plans for these outer rings here. These are currently my north, south, west, and east like tunnel areas. But yes, this I believe will still remain tunnels for now, but they'll probably end up getting decorated a little bit nicer in the future. So if you're getting all of the decorating done, let's take a look again. This wants us to get up into a nitro. That is going to be a lot of power that is going to need to be made in order to get there. And also withers killed, which the wither problem, that's honestly not a big deal. I honestly think the wither is probably the easiest thing that we could do today. But yes, power generation. So there's several different options that we could use, and we're already utilizing a really good early game source of just free power. But Mekanism actually can provide us even more power, and there's also other mods that I really want to get into in the future, and I want to use power gen from those too. But I think to get a nice sustainable amount of free power that can kind of keep going and going and going, and produce a significant amount of it to kind of keep us going, let's say around 20,000 FE per tick or so, we are really going to need gas burning generators. And I know they've been nerfed in this pack by quite a bit, but that still may be just enough to get us into power, which will allow us to get even more power. The problem is, well, we have to actually craft gas burning generators, and this is our first time being introduced with heat, and we actually need to provide heat to the world engine. And this is a very expensive process, by the way. The heat, it recommends in the quest to provide heat. It requires about 2,000 RF per tick in order to deal with that 350 degrees Celsius. And so to make this possible, we got a lot of power buffered back. So these elite energy cubes, which I have now upgraded to, these bad boys store a good 25 million FE per tick, which is going to be necessary. Oh yeah, I did add elevators. I almost forgot. Oh yeah, and you can also camouflage these elevators, by the way. I got a quick way to get up here now. And so we should head on over to the world engine. Like I said, I think a good starting power is probably going to still be gas burning generators, even though they are limited. They only take a couple machines in order to actually get up and running fully, and it's not too bad to get all going. I think the hard part is producing ethene. Ethene is one of those things that takes a little bit of work. See, we need a little bit of hydrogen, and we also need some water, which I have a neat way of actually getting water. And then we need to send it some sort of biofuel. And biofuel we can get quite easily from just simply crushing down sugarcane. Like, how easy is that? But anyways, back to setting up the world engine. I just want to show you the resistive heater, this right here. I'm going to place the resistive heater on the side of the world engine. I'm not even using any of the fancy cables because I believe this is faster at sending heat directly to the world engine, not even utilizing the heat cables. But we need to set a value of 2000 FE per tick, 2000 in here. That's the value. By default, it's not set to that. So after that, we can then place our energy cube, make sure power is being sent to this so that heat can start to generate. And in here, we're going to notice that heat going up, and it's simply a waiting game. But I think at this point we can toss in the items that are required, but it's not going to consume them until our heat is up here. Keep in mind though, when it does consume the items, this is something to note. When it does consume the items, make sure you have enough power to process up and also maintain that heat. Because if your heat depletes, well, you have to rebuild up your heat again before you can even finish the craft. And you can't actually pull the items out of here either. And so I'm going to craft about 4 gas burning generators. That should be quite a bit. I mean, it's going to get us close to, I think, 20 FE or 20,000 FE, give or take. And there we go. And all of the power just left this thing. It consumed the items. We now give it all of this power, and it's going to take a little bit of time because I am doing 4 crafts. So it is going to take, and I don't know if it 100% like multiplies. So it does all 4 at the same amount of time, just consuming 4 times the power. I have no idea, but we should end up with 4 gas burning generators after all of this, or so I hope. I mean, look at that. I mean, as soon as I take off the power for the temperature just starts dramatically falling, and I don't know if there's a way to maintain it outside of just constantly providing this thing with 2000 RF per tick. It's a lot. All right, there it is. It's done. All right, so we have our gas burning generators now. And I mean, this is going to be a pretty good starting point, I think. It may seem kind of complicated, but I'm going to try my best to explain how to set this up in a very compact and simple way. Now, some other machines that are needed for this setup is, of course, the pressurized reaction chamber. It's not too bad to get that set up. We also need electrolytic separator, and we're also going to need a crusher per setup for each of the gas burning generators. So let me show you, in my opinion, the best way to set this up. You need a gap behind the setup. And I think this is going to be a pretty good space. This is the center, and let's just leave a center gap here. So yeah, we can put a PRC right here. And now the electrolytic separator, I'm actually going to turn around because hydrogen actually outputs from the left side of the machine whenever you're facing the machine. And then technically the crusher also automatically outputs to the right-hand side of the machine. So if we don't want to configure really anything at all, we can just put the crusher backwards as well. And that will automatically eject the thing, leaving the only thing we really need to kind of configure being the pressurized reaction chamber. This makes this setup really, really easy to simply just copy and sort of paste. Like it is very, very simple to do this and build multiple of them. And so with this setup, technically the gas burning generators would go right on top and this would provide power. But let's actually not put the gas burning generators on just yet because there's still some things we need to configure. And we also got to get the material that's going to go into the crusher, which I said earlier is actually going to be sugarcane, which we should be able to get from SNAD. Now here's where things get interesting. Directly underneath these, we are going to need to provide water. But how exactly are we going to get infinite water? We don't have a sink, right? Right? Well, not exactly. The sink you actually have to provide water to, but we do have other options that's not a sink. For example, we do have the Mekanism pump, which we could use. It would use a little bit of power to actually produce the water, but what if I told you there's a flower, yet again, that I'm going to bring up that can actually be piped out of infinitely? I present to you again, the pitcher plant. Yes, the pitcher plant actually can be piped from, believe it or not. So let's actually dig a spot down here and we'll put the pitcher plant and then we'll just use some mechanical pipes from Mekanism and then set this to extract mode. And there we go. Now we have water that is being pulled from the pitcher plant and is going into this. And yes, this is, again, if you don't know what this mod is, the pitcher plant is essentially from the random things mod. It's not called random things in here, but it is the random things, irregular implements. And oh, how irregular this actually is. But I absolutely love this. I mean, it's such a quirky way of generating like water. I don't even know what to say. But yes, we need water in the electrolytic separator, and we also need water in the PRC. Both of those are going to need a source of water to work. And as far as the sand goes, I mean, we're going to be using the same method that I used before. Make sure you are using specifically SNAD, and you do want to accelerate it with a pulse timer from Create to make sure you can get that nice 2 ticks being sent directly to the SNAD. That sugarcane is going to grow really fast. And then right on top of this, I'm actually going to place in the Just Dire breaker, just like so that way it breaks the sugarcane when it grows right here. And then to collect the drops, this is where we are going to use the Just Dire item collector. And I'm also going to put a void upgrade in the barrel to make sure to void off any extra. The goal would be to route some redstone to shut off this breaker if this did end up getting filled. But we're going to test this first and see what we need to do. And now to get these up and running, the only thing we need to do is give it an item to technically break with. And I have it running every 10 ticks. That may honestly be more than enough. If we set this to every 20, it'll actually let it grow up taller. I mean, we could probably even delay it even more, so we don't have it running as often. Look at that. Now we get 3 every operation. No, if you're playing on single player, every single tick, honestly, not too bad either. And same over here, just needs to hold a item of some sort. And now we're producing everything we need to be able to send into our crushers. And so now all I've got to worry about is piping some items. And I kind of like the idea of using pipes like this. And we just need to simply pipe directly into the crusher top. That's going to be more than fine. And I'm just going to continue this per side. So we have, yeah, this is going to be working with 2 of these. That's probably way more than enough. So we want to make sure to use a configurator and set this to extract mode. Beautiful. Man, this feels so old school. Now there is one other config that we do need to set up. Now this is going to produce hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen, I do believe, is on this right hand side. And we just want to make sure that we are dumping excess on whichever side is oxygen. I think it is this particular side here though. I mean, if you were looking from the face, you will see that hydrogen should go on the left-hand side and oxygen should go on the right-hand side. So yeah, dumping excess on the oxygen side. Now we've got to start thinking about a couple of things. The PRC is going to produce substrate from this operation, but that's not really what we want. So I kind of want to store that substrate potentially for later. We can use this in other processes for like making HDPE sheets, for example. But I do want to void off any excess to make sure these machines run nonstop. So to make sure of that, I'm back here kind of running some cables, just disconnecting these from all of these machines. The only one we want connected is the back of the actual pressurized reaction chamber. You know what? I'm still unsure of exactly where I want this to reside. You know what? I kind of want this barrel to possibly go like under here. Now we're almost there technically. If we go ahead and put the gas burning generators on top here, we can then actually configure the pressurized reaction chamber. And then we just need to give this a little bit of power to jumpstart the whole system. And then we just need to work on upgrading the machines from there. So now that we have our first machine set up, let's pop open the item configuration tab. And this is the only thing we should really have to worry about. And that is basically the item output that is going to go here and our extra gas. We kind of got to tell that where to go. So our item output, we actually want this to not output to the right-hand side, but instead we want this to be an item input. And then right here, we want this to be set as the back for the output, just like that, because we're going to be auto outputting into that pipe in the back. So we then also need to go into the gas, and instead of outputting to the right, we are actually going to output to the top for the gas automatically. And on items, we also need to make sure we turn item auto eject on, and that should be set up correctly. And we can actually just copy this and paste it into all of our other machines. So you can use a configuration card, shift right click, and then just right click to pass that information on to all of the machines. And even the ones that have their direction change should still keep that same idea based on the machine itself orientation. Now to jumpstart these, all we have to do is give this a little bit of power. So I'm hooking it up to these coal generators. That is going to be enough to get some hydrogen in there. And as soon as we get our first like biofuel, we do need to go into these and make sure auto eject is turned on. Then we can copy that settings, paste that, And that should be just about it. I think that's looking pretty good, actually. So now, perfect. Look at that. We already have substrate that is being produced, and each one of these is now starting to receive that ethane that we need. So first upgrades, I think are definitely going to be muffler upgrades. This is pretty huge. Crushers are some of the loudest machines. I swear, they're so loud. And then we can also get those electrolytic separators. Those are pretty loud too. Okay, so now with all of this, I think we can tap in to the actual generator itself. It's not going to be generating a lot of power, but it should be able to keep up with what we currently have as we start to work on upgrading this machine and putting efficiency upgrades and everything. Now, when putting the upgrades in the machine, these can accept up to 32 upgrades, but as far as energy goes, I've actually not seen any benefit from putting more than 32 inside of these machines, but or more than 8 inside of these machines. But that's something that, of course, you can test and maybe let me know. But as of right now, some of the things I definitely want to upgrade is probably going to be the crushers, and I think just upgrading them into their next tier is probably going to be more than enough. I think the main issue, right, is going to be having enough of the hydrogen and also making sure we have enough of the bio. Now these are starting to look pretty darn good. I got one singular speed upgrade inside of here. Everything has efficiency upgrades now. These have 8 of the speed upgrades, 8 efficiencies, 8 speed, 8 efficiency. I do think I am being kind of limited, I think, on these, and that's mainly the speed of the pipe. So I've actually decided to just upgrade the item input pipe, because I think that was primarily what was limiting the whole thing. And you can actually right click infused alloy on here just to make it easy so you don't have to replace any of your pipes. And so that should now start to pick up, and we should start to see biofuel in here. I think upgrading these crushers into their next tier will also make this significantly faster and able to keep up. But then we start to run into the problem too of our electrolytic separators. So we do want this to max out. Once the energy density maxes out, we should start to actually see the correct amount of power we can generate. So let's go ahead and jump back over to the world engine. I'm just gonna dump these in here for right now. Yeah, let them do as many as I possibly can. Now this will cause the crusher's power to spike, but it is also going to upgrade the machine, and we can now split, and it's basically 3 times as fast now. So after letting all of my generators build up, I've started to realize, yeah, this sugarcane is probably not going to keep up. And I think it's because it only produces 1 biofuel per sugarcane, and we almost need to double this rate. And I'm going to talk about that here in a second. But something I do want to mention, there was a hot fix while I was in the middle of actually recording this video, and we now produce a bit more power out of this. Now, what you're seeing here is not actually what it produces. I'm going to show you that here in a second. But first, let's actually fix this, because this is a bigger issue, I think. We are not producing enough biofuelable material at the moment. So I actually want to switch this over to cactus, because cactus actually gives us 2 per, and we don't even need a breaker for the cactus to work properly. So let me take this out. We'll place the cactus down, and you'll notice the cactus just immediately grows. This will just immediately collect it, and that's actually all we need. We just need that setup. It's actually kind of genius. We have to have this wall back here broken, but it's going to auto break itself from the cactus. And once that actually fills up, which we can probably pop all of this out of here, turn that into paper. There we go. So now we have all of this cactus that's building up. This is going to go into the system. It's going to be perfect. Now I did some messing around with these. Now I did have to upgrade these to an advanced crushing factory when I was testing and keeping up with everything. And you are able to buy the advanced crushing factory upgrade from the shop, but you do need to make the prior, which does require you to use the world engine. But I did get them all upgraded, so these are all nice and ready to go. And so let's get some power drain on here by using a trash can to make sure we're keeping up. This does require 3 upgrades, and by the way, no more than 8 energy upgrades are effective from what I was testing, so I didn't really notice any effect on there. But this is using like 1.28, so like 1,128 RF per tick to essentially generate enough hydrogen to keep up with the demand. And then over here, we are using all of this to be able to generate, so thankfully that seems to be working as intended. And our ethylene has now been constantly filled up, and we're looking good. And we're now producing like 1.19, so we're producing 8,000 FE per tick. But after we do the subtractions from what it actually costs to run each one of these, then we'll have our actual number and we'll know how much we're actually generating. And I was thankful to get this hot fix because otherwise my numbers would be all skewed. But this should be the numbers that everyone is generating. You should be generating, when this is completely filled up with ethene, this should be generating about 8,000 FE per tick. Now, after all is said and done, as far as power generation rates go, this is now going to be generating about 5,890 FE per tick. That assumes that you upgraded this. You can actually get a bit more out of this if you went with the lower tier crusher that only has 3 slots. It only uses like 800 FE per tick. But this is really only going to use as much power as it actually needs. These are kind of like stark estimates. So it may be closer to like 6,000 FE per tick in total that this is generating, give or take. Like, it just really depends on everything, all the factors involved. And then we multiply that by 4, we're looking at about 23 to 20,000 FE per tick. I would only assume anywhere between 20, and that's with all 4 of these set up. So you first got to get them all set up. That is the thing, right? And it took me almost 2.5 hours, 3 hours to kind of wait for everything to get prepped up, prep up all the items and ingredients for everything. So it's definitely time consuming to get all of the resources required for all this stuff. But is it worth it? 100%. And I think at this point, let's shut this down. I do have everything actively working. So even at max draw, this is going to function. And I can now just supply my battery right here for right now. That is going to house a bunch more power, 25 million at the current moment. Now with the power set up, I get to have a little bit more fun when it comes to actually decorating this room. And I'm thinking we can use some factory blocks on the floor. That's going to look pretty good. And I'll probably mix up the laboratory tiles and also the laboratory blocks, kind of mixing and matching those in the floor here. So we'll place this down and pick it up with the exchanging gadget and just kind of walk around and exchange the floor. But I think this is looking pretty good. Once we get some like better lights and more glowstone and more things automated here soon, things are really going to start opening up and I'll be able to decorate a lot more with a lot more things. But I really wanted to get power out of the way and I wanted to generate a bit of power so that way we can continue on. Now our power infrastructure is 100% going to need to grow because power demands are definitely going to start getting higher, but this, I think, is a fantastic start. There are better methods of generating power with Auratech and many other things, but I think 20k FE, that's pretty darn good for this early on. So now with that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Of course, guys, be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up and don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And well, it's now time to also thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. That amazing thanks, well, that thanks is going to go out to Shaggy. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting my content in just one of the best ways possible. You absolute boss. And well, guys, with that, it's time for me to say goodbye. And as always, thanks for watching.